Today on Locked On Rockies, back-to-back bummers.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 27th day of April in the year 2022. I'm Paul Holden, your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Rockies talk 5 days a week here on the Locked On Rockies, Locked On Podcast Network, but I'm doing that on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Proud to be your first listen of the day. Proud to be part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That's what we do around here. We talk about the Colorado Rockies, and we got a lot to talk about with the Colorado Rockies today because the ship has holes. The ship is taking on water, and the warning signs continue to blare for the Colorado Rockies as they play another ugly game of baseball yesterday. A couple of bright spots. We'll talk and highlight a couple of bright spots. We'll talk a little bit about the comments made about the state of the baseballs as well, and maybe take a wonder and take a guess if Rockies pitchers are struggling with that as well. They didn't have much, nothing really in terms of the Rockies, in terms of sticky stuff last year. I don't necessarily think that anyone really had any issues. I don't think the Rockies really had anyone that I can think of that struggled in between or after the sticky stuff ban or something like that. But we got to talk about pitching in the bullpen as well. And really, in reality, folks, today, the Rockies need to get things figured out. The Rockies are letting their hot start slip away in a stretch where they can. Obviously, the series isn't over. The series can be split, and the Rockies still have the ability to leave Philly with 2 games and split the series. That's the best situation. That's the best case scenario. But man, have we seen 2 nights of ugly Rockies baseball. I don't know if it's been the weather. I don't know what it is with the Rockies, but the Rockies now have fallen to 10-7 and have been outscored in this series 18-5. The defense didn't help out anybody yesterday. The Rockies get a little bit of offense from Charlie Blackman, who's swinging it. CJ Cron picks up a couple of hits as well, but that's really it in terms of the Rockies offense, except for Jose Iglesias got himself a nice RBI double as well. The big story again, German Marquez not looking sharp and not being the ace that the Rockies need. Hasn't really blown anyone away. Hasn't looked his dominant self yet. We talked last year in the early part of the season when we kind of had similar issues with German Marquez. Maybe this will be German still just needs that time to warm up. Literally, we talked about how cold weather temperatures can impact German Marquez. My buddy Jambron gave us some stats and talked about how as the season goes on, we've seen German get better. But we've also heard from at least one pitcher the status of the baseballs, and I don't necessarily know what's going on, but Chris Bassett from the Mets says MLB has a very big problem with the baseballs. They're bad. Everyone knows it. MLB doesn't give a damn about it. It's weird. I don't when you hear this stuff, I don't necessarily know how to dive into that, but is that another factor? Is there actually another issue with the baseballs like we saw last year? I mean, we have seen a historic amount of batters hit this year. We've seen the Mets in that example have been one of the teams that have let up some of the most amount of hits this year. So that could be a factor. That might be something the Rockies need to watch. Maybe should be asked about the Rockies when we're seeing a lack of sharpness, a lack of missing barrels, which is something that the Rockies are usually pretty good at, especially German Marquez as well. It's something to keep an eye out, but I'm also not necessarily thinking that it's just the baseballs, but it's as Patrick Saunders tweets, his ERA is up to 5.14. He's been mediocre in his start. Defense doesn't really do anything for the Rockies. But Patrick Lyons says German Marquez, it's only the fourth time in 142 starts he's recorded only 1 strikeouts. 3 of those have come out on the road. German Marquez out after 3 2/3 last night, 4 runs, 7. I mean, it's just ugly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just ugly. And the Rockies coming out as flat as they did in that second game was a little bit disappointing. We knew Philly was going to be able to swing it. We knew Philly has the ability to hit and score runs, and the series isn't over. But man, it was just another day where you felt really deflating. You really felt like, woof, if this is it, if that was the run, if that was the only run, this Rockies team has a lot more question marks and a lot more things we need to be concerned about. But it's only 2 games. It's 2 games in April. Series split still possible. And you can bounce back and you got a nice promising road series ahead. You can still make this a road trip where if you split the series with the Phillies, you will be 4-7. You'll have a winning road trip. If the Rockies can split this series, if the Rockies can come back and win, you're going to be 4-7 on this road trip after dropping 1 to the Tigers and then the 2 to the Phillies. That's still a good road trip. You'll still take that. But unfortunately, what we've seen from the Rockies the past 2 nights is kind of a defeated Rockies team. I know maybe it's just the that first big lull of the season. The things were going good. They finally hit the struggles. The season's kind of been grinding. The first month is almost done. How can the Rockies bounce back from that? Will they bounce back from that? This is a sign. I mean, this game tonight is going to be a good kind of benchmark for the Rockies. Again, if the Rockies split this series, they are going to put themselves in a position to leave this road trip 4-7, which is great. You'll take that. You'll take that all day. However, if you get swept, worst case, you're looking at just about 1 game above 500. That early lead, that early hot start, how important that was and how important it could be down the line, like we talked about, that could be in jeopardy. Split the series, split the road trip, don't lose a series. If the Rockies split this series, they still haven't lost a series yet. And that is a major win. That is a major step still in the right direction. But if the Rockies are going to get there, we got to get production from some players, and we got to get the bullpen back to where it was. And let's talk more about that in just a second. But first, got to tell you about some of the great folks that make this show possible, and that includes Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. Here, for those on YouTube, you can see it in this bottle. Here, I'll take a nice big gulp for you too, so you all know that I'm not just holding it up. Athletic Greens. You heard that nice long pause on the audio. You saw that big gulp on the YouTube screen. It is a great way to boost that gut health, give you more energy, optimize that immune system. And, I am very much of the mindset of I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to do some stuff that's a little bit better for me. And the best way for me is to do something like Athletic Greens, where it's in a liquid, where I can just drink it, because I have some issues sometimes with taking the right pills, taking the right vitamins. But Athletic Greens takes everything you need, basically, and to get your day started off right, and puts it all in one easy-to-drink beverage. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens 1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. And folks, you can definitely feel the difference when it comes to the gut health. I feel a little bit better, and I feel that it's just something nice to start the day with a wash of good vitamins to get things going on the right foot. You drink it before your breakfast, so you really can take full advantage of everything that Athletic Greens has to offer with its 75 vitamin mix, all that good stuff. Just a good, nice way to start the day with something that'll make you feel good. Friendly for every diet. It's every lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, or anything artificial. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Go to athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health today. The Rockies need to take ownership over the slumping players, and they need to be able to turn to them. I'm worried about Chris Bryant. I'm worried that the Rockies, if this is going to be a bad back injury, if the Rockies got to deal with the tight back that isn't going to help the Rockies out, it's going to be tough for the Rockies. They can only, they need Chris Bryant to start putting the ball out of the yard. They need Chris Bryant to start hitting for RBIs. As Patrick Saunders tweets, just checking out Chris Bryant's early stats, he's yet to hit a homer and is batting .056 with runners in scoring position. No homers in a Rockies uniform, 1 for 14 on this road trip, scratched before tonight's game because of lower back tightness. That is some bad bummer news. And he is, I don't know if he's going to be playing tonight, and I'm not seeing anything official yet. But hopefully, if this is just something the Rockies can survive a couple days of. But the Rockies, Chris Bryant needs to be an RBI generator. If the Rockies can survive this, split the series, and get Bryant back in a position, back at home, maybe he sits out the next 2 games, and the Rockies wait until he's back in Denver, do a little day-to-day type of thing. Can the Rockies generate enough offense without Chris Bryant in the lineup? I mean, that's what Chris Bryant's big contribution was going to be. We've seen it so far. Other players have stepped up, but at this point, when a player like Bryant goes down, when you're playing a play, if he's down with the back injury, if he's down with the tight back, that means the Rockies need to get some. It's time for someone else to step up. The Rockies need the Brendan Rodgers, especially. Man, that what we're seeing right now on the Rockies offense is the fact that the players that we were most worried about producing are producing, but the players we were hoping to be consistent and to contribute aren't. And Brendan Rodgers is at the top of the list. It's just, I know there's a lot of frustration. It's a bad slump. You still have to keep giving him chances. There's a lot. I'm seeing some stuff of sending him down and da. It's not just Brendan Rodgers, though. Ryan, I mean, it's just so frustrating to be this hot and cold with some stuff and to be and to have but it's just baseball as well. It doesn't really make a ton of sense. It's just mostly I'm kind of at a point when it comes to the Rockies offense where it is just a little strange. The Rockies, this is the second time that the Rockies have lost 2 games in a row, and it's just now where's the Coors hangover coming in here? Is there something about being in is it been the offense that I should be worried about in this series? Or should it be more focused on the defense? Should I be really, as a Rockies fan, should I be this concerned about some of the offensive performances when in reality, a lot of the issues we've seen in big moments in Philly so far have been on the defensive side? Should we sit here and continue to be super worried about the Rockies offense? There's a lot of warning signs that say yes. There's a lot of things that hint to that, especially when it comes to the slumps that continue. Brendan Rodgers yesterday, another grounding into another double play, just hasn't got the timing down. Hasn't gotten into any sort of a rhythm at all. And how long can you allow that to happen? But the Rockies only getting, what was that, 6 hits? 6 hits from 3 people? It's just, I mean, where that's just simply, that's the worrisome stuff. That's the issue that's starting to eat at me, is the Rockies are only getting some. It's kind of feels like we've seen from the past, where the Rockies can only rely on a couple of people to score offense, and then you're just kind of fingers crossed. But that doesn't necessarily match with what we've seen so far this year. We've seen the Rockies, especially on offense, be able to string together full, complete games where the offense, it just clicks and it starts. Every single person's leading. It's not going to, every single person's not getting it, but the Rockies have not translated since going to Detroit. Maybe in game 3, maybe. But we are seeing a little bit of that Coors hangover. The Rockies have won more on the road, yes, compared to last year, but we're still seeing worrisome trends in terms of the Rockies on the road. Looking at the numbers of looking at the runs in terms of run differentials in on this road trip in total between the two opponents, the Rockies have given up, let's see, 15, 17, 25, 35 runs. If my quick math is correct. The Rockies have scored 14. So we can't just sit here and say it's just the defense. We can't sit here and just say it's that. The worrisome warning signs continue to blare, and the offense is the one that is starting to get louder. Not as loud as what we've seen from the Rockies bullpen. The Rockies bullpen is again back to Patrick Saunders. Patrick Saunders has been nailing it yesterday with pointing out some of the things that we need to remember and look at when it comes to the Rockies. Since April 15th, so the last 12 days, the Rockies bullpen has allowed runs in 11 consecutive games, posting a 7.26 ERA. Not going to win when you're being outscored by near over 20 runs in a stretch, and also having your bullpen giving up runs in every single game with an ERA of nearly 8. Got to nip this in the butt now. Got to change things now. And it has to start with tonight's game. How can the Rockies make an adjustment to go out and start scoring some runs and limit the damage? How can the bullpen get back to being one of the best in baseball? I don't need the bullpen to be the best in baseball. I want the bullpen to start getting back to shutting the door and limiting damage, letting the Rockies keep themselves in games. However, the Rockies have got to get better starts too. The Rockies have taken a major step back in the past, I would say, 10 days. In the last, let's go. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Rockies, I was doing some quick. This is what happened. You can't do quick math. I can't do quick math. But anyway, when you start hearing these things, when you start looking at how the Rockies have been outscored on this road trip, you hear the stat from Patrick Saunders. Since April 15th, Rockies bullpen has allowed runs in 11 consecutive games, posting a 7.26 ERA. Those are the stuff you got to start worrying about. The Chris Bryant numbers. Clean it up. The Rockies have shown that they can play cleaner, better baseball. And I think that they will play cleaner, better baseball. I still think they're, and as much as I'm sitting here, as much as I'm down, as much as we kind of had to hit the reality check button today, we've still seen the Rockies perform better. We've still seen more from this Rockies team. We still know this Rockies team is capable more, especially when it comes down to some of the players that are underperforming. I can't do anything as a podcast host to help get that process moving sooner rather than later. But the process of fixing these problems, of making adjustments, of lowering your consecutive games given up and lowering that ERA and scoring more runs and getting a little bit better of a run differential. All I know is the more the Rockies drag their feet on this, the more their window of opportunity gets shorter, smaller, and closes faster. Because the hot start that happened, and still as we've talked about with this schedule, the Rockies are still in a good spot. Change the habits, make an adjustment. You win this game today, you're one game away from no series losses on the season and a road trip where you go 4-7. That's still pretty darn good. And even though I said that they've taken a step back, even though we've seen in the past since April 15th, 12 days, the Rockies have their bullpen has allowed runs in consecutive games. They're still at a chance where they can be 4-7 on the road and multiple games above 500. Snap the 2-game skid, head to the ballpark, back up your pitcher with good defense, and get ready to go. And the Rockies can still be in a spot where you're going to still feel good about them coming back to Coors against the Reds and the Nationals. You don't want to be coming back into a situation where you feel like you have to force and overdo it against the Nationals and the Reds. Especially with, I don't getting in the mentality of that window again, that above 500 window. It's down to 3 games. It can be as high as 5. It can be as low as 1 at the end of this series. And that for the teams like the Rockies is major. It's big time deal. Let's take a look at the game tonight and hopefully for more, because the Rockies, above all, even if the Rockies lose tonight, it's got to just be cleaner, better baseball. I want to see the Rockies come out and actually put together a nice cohesive game tonight for the Rockies. And hopefully this one player will keep leading the charge, because he has been changing the narrative so far about his season. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. At Built Bar, you are going to get the protein bar that tastes delicious and is good for you. Yes. All you got to do is head to built.com and you're going to see all the delicious options, and you're going to be able to see the macro charts for yourself. If you don't want to take it from this podcast host, go to built.com and you can look at all the macro charts for yourself for all of these protein bars covered in 100% real chocolate. Most of the protein bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. This is also available to you at Built.com. They have the first ever protein-infused marshmallows. You can get the Built Bar Puffs, and those are also covered 100% real chocolate, and they're also a nice, tasty treat. But you can see all the great flavors available and all the great products available at Built.com, where they put deliciousness first, then figure out how to make it healthy. You can go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's 15% off your order at Built.com when you use the promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off at Built.com when you use the promo code LOCKED15. One bright spot so far, at least in this road trip and of late of the Rockies, has been Charlie Blackman. Charlie Blackman has come out and really made a nice impact for the Rockies, picking up a couple of home runs last night, really showing that he can swing the bat and still be an impact for this team. In his past 3 games, Charlie Blackman has 6 hits in, 13 at-bats, 2 of them being home runs. And, 2 really solid games. Got that batting average at 281, especially starting off as cold as he did. That's a sign to come. If Charlie's getting it, maybe that it can continue to snowball down, and the rest of the Rockies were counting on the Brendan Rodgers, the Ryan McMahons to start swinging things. Because if that part of the lineup starts clicking, the Rockies can get back to it. Because when the Rockies were winning, it was Connor Joe leading off, and then Charlie Blackman was kind of doing his thing to start the season, sometimes contributing, at least getting on base here or there. Bryant was swinging it well to start at least the start of the season. it's time. Getting that back in order is going to be massive for the Rockies, because I think the Rockies offense scoring more runs will boost up the starting pitching as the pitching starts to get more and more into the season and more into what it's like to be in the rotation and the thick of the baseball season. I'm kind of hoping the Rockies pitchers are going to get better over time. I'm not as worried about the rotation. I'm kind of in its early season stuff. I'm not as the stuff that's worrying me about the rotation. I still need a couple more starts before I'm as worried about some of the stuff that worries me about the offense and the bullpen. Bullpen needs to get back to what it needs to do. Kind of repeated myself a lot today, but that is kind of it. I mean, it's just so we've run around in circles, I think, the past couple of days with the Rockies, where it's just like, what the heck's going on? We know we've seen more. We're hoping for more. Will things change? But the big story of today, Ryan Feltner getting the start today, called up for the Rockies in this one. It's going to be his new makes his first start of the season. It's always exciting for someone to come up and make their debut for the Rockies. So good. They definitely need a good start here. Blake Street blogger says Colorado currently ranks 26th in ERA and 28th in opposing batting average. Their ERA sits at 4.53. Batting average at 280 and 28th in strikeouts, 119. So 119 for the Rockies pitchers so far. Feltner was up and did get some time last year, did pitch against the Phillies in September of last year as well. So he's going to come up and hopefully put the Rockies in a nice situation. I hope the Rockies got to be able to take care of their rookie, of their young guy, and get him, back him up, because the defense has just been atrocious. I think the Rockies defense will figure it out. I think the Rockies are a better defensive team than we showed. And as much as we should be talking about that, I just think that it's not what I'm confident in Ryan McMahon. I'm confident in most of the defense of the Rockies. So back up the young guy today, go out, get a win, and let's start on the road to splitting this series and start and get to the path to 4-7. That is major. Those games, the 13-0 game against the Detroit, it'll go a lot further it'll feel a lot better when it's 4-7 at the end of the day. The Rockies come away 4-7. That pill of those games becomes a little bit easier to swallow. But the task is tough today. You got the young guy making a debut on the bump tonight, and you got the Rockies, struggling to score runs right now. So we will see what happens. Struggling to play defense. Time to right the ship and time to get things back on track with the Colorado Rockies. But yeah, Charlie Blackman, 2 home runs, really making a great impact today or so far for the Rockies, especially of late, and really wanting to, telling the people, hey, I'm still around. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Phillies, 1-0, 4.38 ERA, 9 strikeouts on the year. Did he pitch in this season against Colorado? Let's see. It does not appear that he pitched in Colorado. So the Rockies seeing an arm they did not see in Colorado tonight, and we're hoping for big things. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll be keeping it Locked On Rockies here on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the YouTube channel, it's a big help to us here at Locked On Rockies. You can also follow us at LO Rockies on Twitter, and we're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. All you got to do is search Locked On Rockies. If you join the live chat, you can put your questions in, and I'll answer them if you want to hop in for the live recording of the show, which we do right there on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Now that you've made Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day, make the Locked On Now or Locked On MLB podcast your second listen of the day. Stay up to date with all things Major League Baseball and the world of sports with those 2 podcasts. If you want to keep it in Colorado, you got the Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Broncos podcast, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies